financial knowledge and social capital, and also are critical components to fueling the growth of local companies and economies. Did that point of view come before or after you exited your businesses or business?
I think after. I think the podcast, what ended up happening is selling a company, and then I began investing into other companies, another group of security companies, concrete, real estate, and then on a dare, I started the podcast, and that's when I started really meeting other entrepreneurs, and I'm a part of the Entrepreneurs Organization, and that's when it really hit me that entrepreneurs are the heroes of the American economy. They're the ones that make the sacrifices, take the risks in order to create opportunity, but also to change the world, make the world a better place. And so I thought to myself, this is where I want to spend my time, around the most ambitious people in the region, but also for the right reason, because the companies that we invest into are really changing the world.
Welcome to the Paint Method podcast. My name is David Garibaldi. If you're coming back, welcome back. If you've been, along with us on this journey, this new podcast, and you've heard it before. And those of you who are new, this is a mindset podcast. Those of you who are on your creative journey, even if you're not an artist, we're still creating our journey. And I hope that this Paint Method helps you discover where you are and knowing what to create next. And the beauty of art is once we're done with this canvas, we take it off the wall and put a new one on. So those of you who are listening to this on any podcast platform, be sure to hit that follow button, and also feel free to share this as well. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying these episodes, and hit that like button as well. So I've been very fortunate to have some very passionate guests on here, but today's guest, I think, takes passion to another level. I think the idea of growth is ingrained in his not only his words, but just his energy. And so you could describe him as a serial entrepreneur, has had some successful exits, definitely more to come with that. He's also been pouring into his community, the city that we're from, with projects like the Growth Factory, which we go into, and also you can really learn more of these gems that he shares with us on his podcast, The Mark Haney Show. So please welcome our guest today, Mark Haney. We are all on our paint journey, but where are we now? And where do we go next? This is how. Passion, action, intent, new, teach. This is the Paint Method. I've gotten to know you through mutual friends of ours, but over the past year, I've been able to just talk to you more, and it's been a pleasure to get to know you, Mark.
Well, it's my honor to be here, and it's definitely my honor to know you as well. And I think when I walked in here, I had an idea of what to expect, but I am blown away. So this is for anybody I know you can see the backdrop here, but the entire place is incredible.
No, thank you. This is the version that when you learn all your mistakes along the way, or you tried hard at certain points and you're like, we kind of fell short here. This is the version right now of how could we do it better.
Nice. So
I'm sure there's another one somewhere.
Yeah.
I was saying we should just give me 5 minutes to paint your wall at your studio.
Okay. No problem.
Yeah, we'll do that. Well, so to prepare for you today, I made sure I worked out.
Okay.
I got a really good workout in. I also I think I'm on my third cup of coffee because I had to. You're a very energetic, charismatic figure. I don't know if you know this or not.
I've been accused of bringing energy, and my mom told me that if you don't have talent, well, bring some energy.
Yeah. But, we live in an era. You are a, serial entrepreneur, and we'll get into those stories. And, having that big personality, we're living in an age where a lot of founders are becoming celebrities, or people are striving to become a founder for hopefully to build a successful business and to exit. But also there's a little celebrity that can come with it now. Do you feel like that, or has that changed
for me,
from your point of view?
Well, for me, I feel like I started a podcast. We were talking in 2014. I sold my businesses in 2010, and I was, I guess, somewhat known in the security camera world. We did business all over the country, and I wasn't a celebrity of any sorts, but we had a pretty good sized company. And after that, I was sort of lost because I came back to my hometown. I started saying to myself, how do I help my family, my friends, and community? And so I was starting over. And I think one of the things that was helpful is starting the podcast. It's kind of easy to get known if you have a podcast. And I'm not a celebrity by any mention, but I am really immersed into this entrepreneurial community and venture community in Sacramento.
Yeah, there's a little line on your bio that said, and it really stuck out to me. And I think it's a financial knowledge and social capital, and also are critical components to fueling the growth of local companies and economies. Did that point of view come before or after you exited your businesses or business?
I think after. I think the podcast, what ended up happening is selling a company, and then I began investing into other companies, another group of security companies, concrete, real estate, and then on a dare, I started the podcast, and that's when I started really meeting other entrepreneurs, and I'm a part of the Entrepreneurs Organization, and that's when it really hit me that entrepreneurs are the heroes of the American economy. They're the ones that make the sacrifices, take the risks in order to create opportunity, but also to change the world, make the world a better place. And so I thought to myself, this is where I want to spend my time, around the most ambitious people in the region, but also for the right reason, because the companies that we invest into are really changing the world.
Yeah, no, and I would love to get into what those companies are as well, because I know some of them, and they are definitely doing that. But to be an entrepreneur, to run a company, you have to be very shrewd. You have to be, have foresight of different patterns. You have to just really, there's not always a lot of it's based on faith. It's really more based on facts. And so it's sometimes people have perspectives of entrepreneurs that they're not looking out for the economy, or they're just looking out for their own. Why do you think that there's a misconception between how people view those type of entrepreneurs and say what assumes to be entrepreneur that you are, which is thinking about social capital as part of your plan?
Well, I think entrepreneurs come in all shapes and sizes, and I think today's society has a larger group of people that are really trying to make a difference in the world, really wanting to build something responsible and change they have a big why in many cases, and those kind of things those kind of principles I think are really attractive, and I think that there is a sort of a societal movement toward solving big problems, because we got enough of them, and I think really entrepreneurs do solve the big problems, and I think there's a movement that way. So I think the mindset is shifting. I think now maybe there's a continuing distrust for people that are running extremely large enterprises, a distrust for the media, distrust for politics. But I think small business and entrepreneurship is respected.
Yeah. But not only are entrepreneurs, I think, solving big problems, they're also solving the small ones. Like, I went to a lovely coffee shop down the street, and I needed, a nice environment and great caffeine to get me going. And they're solving that problem on such a micro level too.
Yes.
And I repeat that. I go back there time and time again. And so I think what's interesting when people approach business, and mine was built off of passion. Like, I can't imagine doing anything else but this. But some people are looking at, how do I solve a safety problem in a car, and they develop a mechanism that can help with a bigger product. Did you always approach business that way? Was it following a particular passion to build a business, or was it a category that stuck out to you?
Yeah. I think early on in my career, I really I was one of these guys that threw in high school. I threw parties that people loved to come to, right? So that was
You still do.
I still am built that way, and so for me, it was around building teams and being around an environment where we're having fun and winning. So that was my driving force behind the effort that I put in, and the reason why I showed up for work early and stayed late. It was around helping my teammates because when a company ends up growing and getting bigger, it creates all kinds of opportunity within a company, and it can be really a ton of fun. And so I think at the beginning, that's where I really found my passion. Today, we're attempting to solve a problem, which is we're on a mission to ignite the entrepreneurial revolution right here in the hometown we love. So after selling my companies, I wrote a mission statement around creating opportunity for my family, friends, and community. So I'm doing that. I'm painting pictures in my mind and actually building art projects around some stuff with my family, my friends, and my community. And really, we're working on igniting an entrepreneurial revolution, and that sounds kind of like, what is that? But really, the Sacramento region isn't really known for. It's known as a government town. We're a government cow town. We got the Sacramento Kings, and we got some cool stuff.
We got some good food.
Yeah, but we haven't really embraced entrepreneurship the way that some other communities around the globe have. If you compare us to a place like Austin, Texas, it's a capital of a different state. It's about our size. They have their ecosystem in entrepreneurship is a lot further developed than ours. The venture capital community has embraced entrepreneurship, and there's a lot of money flowing through, and then that's what really causes things to thrive. Sacramento really hasn't had that, but it's beginning to change, and that's what I'm focused on.
Is that energy, how it happened at Austin, which is a great example, when that began, is that a group of people coming in? Is it like, I guess when you look at this like a revolution, I imagine revolutions. I'm like, there's someone's got to be radical. The way things that have been done cannot be done the same, and we're not just going to make a small change. We're going to make a radical change, and whether it's the amount of entrepreneurs that are starting their businesses and helping them with that process. But how far along do you think we are in that entrepreneurial revolution in Sacramento?
Yeah, I think we're in the early innings. Success breeds success. So when we have a company here in Sacramento that ends up having a big exit, that founder or that founding team ends up going on to do something else afterwards. And often those founding teams and teammates that are on this successful journey end up building confidence, right? That success builds confidence for this, not just the founder, but this group of people. And so that group of people ends up going and doing other startups, and it just sort of, it's infectious in its own way. And so we've begun to have that happen. Some of the companies I've invested into have had nice exits, and now the founders are doing other startups. One of the guys that's involved in the Growth Factory, which is our venture, is the number of them have built and sold companies. And so that we have united around this concept called the Growth Factory. And it's all with the impact of getting a return, helping startups in our region, and then ultimately having that, accelerate and escalate the ecosystem for our region.
Yeah. Tell me more about the Growth Factory. I imagine there was that show, The Fantasy Factory, Rob Dyrdek, which is another great entrepreneur. I don't know if you follow him or not, but I imagine this mecca for information and things flying around that are inspiring you. What is the Growth Factory? How did it start? Like, what's the story about that?
Yeah, nobody builds a truly great company alone. And so what we've decided to do is create something, a startup accelerator with an accompanying venture fund and the backyard advantage. So an accelerator is like a startup boot camp. It's training, and it really prepares a founder, a founding team to be ready to go out there and face the world and raise money and escalate accelerate their company. And then the accompanying venture fund, we have engaged, active investors investing into these startups, into our fund. And then this backyard advantage really is kind of interesting because in a town like Sacramento, even though we're the government cow town that I guess I've described us as at some level, we also have people. There are people that really believe in the power of entrepreneurship. They really want to roll up their sleeves and help out. So who are those people? Well, because I've been doing this podcasting for the last several years, I happen to know who these people are. And so we've engaged them. There's like 300 of us now.
Wow.
They're all focused on helping the most promising startups in the region. We just invested into 13 companies. And now this group of 300 people is opening up doors for these startups so that they can have a little bit better chance of succeeding in these early stages. And the whole idea is we invest some amount of money, but as they begin to succeed, that attracts other venture capital from outside the region, which is kind of like what Austin's done. It's not all Austin money coming there. It's not all oil money. It's Dell money and Dellionaire type money that started it.
And Tesla now.
And Tesla. And so it all started with some success of some other tech companies. But now you see what's happening with Sacramento. So many people moving here from the Bay Area, and the money from the Bay Area is going all over the country and all over the world, and it's coming to Sacramento as well. And so we're building companies that are venture backable that can attract some of that money.
Yeah. So when you're vetting people to join the Growth Factor, I'm assuming that there's some sort of process to get in it. How do you help them define, or help you define, the difference between, look, you've got a great idea and I think you can make some money, but it's not a scalable business that you can exit? Like, how do you define the difference between, let's just say, someone who's like a solopreneur, they have maybe the potential to build a big company, and then the difference between them and someone who's ready to build?
Yeah. Most companies that venture capitalists invest into are tech or tech enabled. There's something very unique. There is a secret sauce beyond the passion of the entrepreneur. The passion of the entrepreneur is vital, but they also have a product that can be scaled, and often that comes in the form of technology.
Yeah. Scaling has been a common theme here, just in my business in general. And I say that because, again, when you start with something that's a passion, I'm the one person making art. And then I remember my first experience with it was getting my first publishing deal. So that version, maybe not scaling, but many people could purchase and enjoy the art all at once. So as time went on, as we started developing the live show as well, and even now, I'm always thinking, like, how can we scale what we do? And I think that's a challenge for artists or solopreneurs like myself as we're building teams. And what advice do you give to people who are in that position, asking for a friend, who are in this transition of like, look, I've been doing this a certain way. I have examples of scaling, but I'm just not there yet. What would you tell someone that's to kind of tip on over to the other side?
Yeah, I think look at other businesses that might seem like they're low tech, but somebody's put an innovative spin on it, right? That we've heard of things like the platform economy, like Uber, right? Okay, a cab is, to open up a cab company, it costs a lot of money to go buy a bunch of cars and hire all these people and run a cab company. It's pretty tough to break into it and scale. You need a lot of capital. But if you create a platform that connects people that want to ride with cabs or drivers of cars, that's an interesting way to build a tech platform that's really providing transportation. We just invested into a company that called Foodum, and it takes something that's kind of low tech, cooking. It's a chef making a meal, and then we have a family that needs meals. We want something healthy and affordable. Well, we have a platform that sort of connects them so that they can, have meals very efficially. But that's a scalable thing because they can do business all over the world.
Yeah.
Right. And so you can take many types of businesses and turn and sort of look at what other people have done and say, oh, how might we put that into our business? I think that might be a good start. The other thing that I always suggest to people, if you don't have that big dream, maybe you're an entrepreneur or you want to be an entrepreneur, go be around people with a big dream. Go spend time with them. Go, if you're looking for a job, go get a job with a startup, because it can be really insightful, and it can really open our minds to kind of the possibilities and make us think a little bit differently, because it's creativity, just like art. And so I think figuring out your niche it takes a lot of creativity, and it takes, typically people start these businesses and they end up pivoting, right? You see, any business I've invested into a lot, and virtually every startup pivots hard. You've pivoted in your business, and then once you but you only pivot when you've been in the trenches, when you've been doing it for a while, and then you've spent time talking to your customers, you've spent time talking to other stakeholders, you've spent time talking to the community. You're like, aha, the idea goes off, you begin testing it, and then next thing you know, you have something that's scalable.
Yeah. I've always been a believer in what you were just talking about, which is, let's just say someone that wants to have a startup, go join one. Go see what it feels like. Or even artists that want to build a career, go intern. Go work for free or work for pennies to just see if you enjoy being around it. And also just throwing yourself in, at least to what you can handle. You know, I don't believe in, sell off the house and do everything where you're putting yourself at that much risk, but take the risk. That is essential.
It is. And a lot of people, we get a little bit fearful of showing up, but I mean, the first step is just to show up somewhere, right? Just show up, and you never know who you're going to meet, and the opportunity is created from there.
What was your first show up moment? Was it the lemonade stand? Was it a college? Like, what was your first? I'm gonna pop in here and see how it goes.
If we're gonna go way back, then I'll tell the story of my first business, which was a newspaper route, and like Taro, one of our mutual friends. I have there are a lot of mutual things that happened to both Taro and myself. I'll tell my Sacramento Union newspaper route story. I was helping out. I think I was in third grade, and I was helping out this high school guy with his route. And one day he got a real job with I think in a pizza parlor. And he's like, "Hey, Mark, you want my route?" And okay, yeah, I got to go ask my mom. Well, the next morning, my mom said no. And the next morning, the newspapers were on my front porch, and I guess I had my own route. So my mom's like, okay, go deliver them. I knew the route. So I started delivering newspapers. But I think that was showing up. I showed up as a volunteer. He wasn't paying me any money to help him with his route, but now I had my own route. I built the route up and developing my own little secret sauce of in-home delivery, where I put the newspaper on the front door and they open the door and it falls into the house. And, my customers really loved that. We ended up moving a number of years later, and I auctioned off my paper route. It had gotten so big. I auctioned it off, and between two older kids, and had a nice exit.
Wow.
As a little kid.
How old were you?
I was going into the sixth grade.
When I was in sixth grade, I think I was barely able to just talk and walk at that time.
Well, I could barely talk and walk too, but my dad owned a TV shop, so I had a little bit of an idea of business, and my mom and my little brother actually helped me with the route. So I had some really good influence, I suppose.
You knew a little bit of the language.
Yeah.
Like you knew that you had something at some point you could auction off or sell.
And I knew I didn't get an allowance, so I might as well go get a job.
Yeah,
I needed money.
Were your parents very encouraging at that time, or did they think you were crazy?
They were very encouraging. Mostly my mom. My older brother and I had gone door to door selling nuts when we were a little kid. It's like around Christmas time. So he was kind of entrepreneurial in nature. And then when I got the paper route, I was the man, because I was making real dough with the newspaper route.
Yeah, usually people go to, say, a good business college, or even in the art world, there was this idea that you got to go to art college and then so on. How important is post-secondary education? And we'll talk about other ways to learn, because I think in the world we live in, about with YouTube University, you can learn a lot. But how important is post-secondary education when pursuing a life in business or wanting to be an entrepreneur?
I didn't go to college, so it wasn't a factor for me. I've seen it be helpful for others, and I've seen it be a waste of time for others. So I think it's what we put into it. When we just go through the motions in anything that we do, the chances of having a real discovery moment is probably not as good. But when we immerse ourselves into something like a job or college, I think there's something to be gained from that. So to me, commitment leads to creativity, and then we sort of make these discoveries. So I think if all you're doing is killing time, well, okay, if you're at the part of your life where you just want to kill time, that's fine. You're not inspired yet, fine. But if you are hungry and you don't know what you want to do, and you decide to spend most of your time going through the motions, that's kind of doesn't make sense. I would say if you're hungry, go be around what you're excited about, immerse yourself into what you love, and if you want to turn that into a business, well, then great.
Yeah, absolutely. And also to add to that, the best thing you could do, even if you don't have a clear direction yet or a clear category of what you want to get into, is what can I learn from this experience, and then how can I apply it to the next place I go? I always joke around that my performance painting is a collision of passions. At one point, I wanted to be a dancer. Like I thought I was gonna be a backup dancer for like Justin Timberlake. You know, I was really committed. And then I realized I had a ceiling, and I thought, okay, you know, I'm gonna save myself that heartache. But that from doing routines over and over again, you know, feeling that, knowing what it felt like to improve just a little bit at a time. And then even the experience of being on stage, it prepared me for when I was 20 to start performance painting and go right into it. I had the experience from dancing rather than just the art.
Do you love music too? Because I've seen you. So there's an athleticism component to what you do. You're leaping in the air and splashing paint, and but you're doing it to music. And so I'm sort of wondering, dance is that correlate with music?
Yeah, music came first. So art was always there, always constant. And then I started playing music growing up. So I played the trumpet from 3rd grade to high school. And it was in high school they said, you have to decide between art and music. If you heard me play the trumpet and you saw me draw, you'd understand why I went to art. But music was always first, and it still is such a huge driving force on how I move, how I build a show. You know, it was just that collided with a bunch of other things. So did you have that experience too, where there are early passions that have lended to your success now?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you take my love to throw a party piece, I ended up recruiting a bunch of my high school buddies to build video stores. We ultimately pivoted into security cameras, which is a lot different. But it really was around recruiting these friends of mine that I went to high school with, and that was how we got our first couple of exits. And so now I feel like that's what I'm doing as well. We're throwing this big party around entrepreneurship, and I feel like that passion, combining kind of almost like, I think anybody can do this too. You can, after selling my companies, I basically invested into a big dry erase board, and I started writing down all the things I loved doing, all the strengths that I had, and all the weaknesses, and just sort of like, what am I going to do with what I got, right? That's the big question we have to all figure out. Is, what am I going to do with what I got? And so I sat there, and it turned it into this mission statement around creating opportunity, because I had enjoyed seeing people in my employees and teammates, as we got a lot bigger, they were able to buy houses, and some became millionaires and so on. That was a great feeling for me, and I wanted to recreate some of that stuff in my own way. And so what better way to do it than through entrepreneurship and throwing a party, entrepreneurship, which creates opportunity. And then that's when the podcast, I guess, ideas sort of surfaced. That's a way for me to really, find my voice.
Yeah, it sounds like the culture that you're creating and the environment is what has sparked a lot of growth, whether it's in your team, the team, working within that culture can turn into, progression in the company. Would you agree with that, or how important is culture?
Yeah, I think that's huge, and I think it starts because culture is huge, and I think there's kind of 3 questions we've got to get right if we want to, bring in the right team and build the right culture. And I think kind because nobody, as I mentioned earlier, nobody builds a truly great company alone. And in that these great companies, they do have a great culture and there's chemistry. But if we want to attract those, first we got to attract those people, and we need to, we need to be thinking about like how big is our dream? People are attracted to a dream that they can share in as well. Right? If there is not a dream or a big purpose that we're rallying around that's meaningful beyond just you wanting to make $1, then it doesn't attract the right people to build the right culture. And then I think the other thing is like the question, what are you going to do with what you got? How you allocate your resources? What are you going to do with your strengths and weaknesses? See, so many people trying to build a culture and build a team, and they've got people in the wrong spots, right? They have a whole bunch of people that are all like them. It's like, we got a bunch of dudes over here, and we're kind of like it's a culture for guys. And if you're trying to build a significant size company, then it probably needs to have some diversity in it. And so getting people on the right allocating those resources, allocating those assets, what are you going to do with what you got? That's huge because people need to play a part in the team that they can be most effective on. And then the third thing that I think ends up being something that gets underappreciated at times is I think how committed we are as founders can be really attractive or not attractive to others, but people are inspired by people that are putting it all out on the line, right? That guy's all in, that woman is all in. I want to be around that. He or she will never quit. Those are the types of things that attract certain types of people, and these types of people end up what puts together the culture, right? We're basically a culture is the culmination or this combined group of values and actions that a team puts forth, and I think the right people around the right idea create a great culture.
Yeah, and you have to keep reassessing of what you're attracting to. I think that's important as you're building a culture. And I say this because I know right now there may be some creatives listening to this or watching this, and they may have this big idea about building their creative brand, or even specifically artists building a brand. And I will say this, I have not done this alone. And I've been fortunate to have a lot of people that have helped me along the way. Some have come and gone. A lot of others have been with me for over a decade, and so part of it is I've had to reassess over time, who am I attracting and why? What are they wanting to get out of it? What do they see? And then at some point you get to this, you start to realize that there is a common goal, and also realizing that it has to start with you. You've got to be so clear about, or clear enough about what you envision for all of us in the future together. And that's whether you start attracting people along the way as well.
Well, so for your business, I 100% agree with you. And you've got this core group of people that are building this enterprise. What is that vision that you're all rallying around?
Yeah. Well, I've always wanted to, my mission has always been about, passion and purpose. This started with a passion. This started with something, I love it. I'll show up to this regardless of whether we're in a studio or I'm in a one-car garage. And the purpose part of it was, we're not just doing this just to get by. We're doing this for a much bigger reason, bigger than us, and that's to benefit and inspire others. So I want to be excellent at creating systems so we can do a podcast however many times a week we want, so that we can give a positive message out to the world as much as possible. Yeah. That's what we're working for. And that's whether I say it or whether I show it. And that's who I ultimately want to attract. And again, sometimes I have to reassess. Am I being clear? Because right now I feel like I'm not attracting that, or I'm not finding that. So I need to reassess my energy, my message, everything, because ultimately I want to benefit and inspire others through this passion.
Yeah, and I think sometimes painting a picture of what the world might look like as you succeed that other people could envision. So one of the teammates that came on board with me He started a couple years ago. I had a party in my backyard, and
So this is a theme. Yeah.
yes, I was
The growth party is going to be the title of the podcast.
I love it. So I was sharing a story about imagine a city where the business leaders unite, where every entrepreneur in town has each other's back. And as the investor community rallies around the most promising startups, together we ignite an entrepreneurial revolution right here in the hometown we love. And what it will look like is a backyard like this, where the founders love each other. The investors love the founders. We're so appreciative of what others have done for each other that it'll provide unity. And that unity is an asset. That unity has real value for the team, but it's got value for our region that is almost unimaginable. And as I painted that picture, it's really a bunch of people sitting in a backyard, and we happened to be in the backyard, but it was easy to imagine. And so I had one of the people in the audience, a company that I was actually invested into, one of the employees of a company I was invested into, he says, I want to be a part of that. And so now he's my co-founder in the Growth Factory.
Okay, so what sparked that vision though? Like, did you see someone that created something similar, or was it a dream? Because I'm always curious. I know what sparked me. I saw Danny Dent perform a painting, and I was like, I don't know what that is, but I want to try it. What sparked that vision?
Well, I'm sort of infatuated with how to build teams that most people would not imagine. We did that within security. We're the largest security camera distributor in the United States.
Wow.
And we ended up merging with another very large distributor, and now that company is the largest security distributor in the world. I exited early, but it was really one of our differentiations was that we were a team that loved each other, right? So this love is actually what I imagined. So how could you take love and unity as assets and apply them to a concept of helping economic development for a region and helping entrepreneurs? What would you need to do to make that happen? You need the right people. You need the right, the dream. Everybody needs, I think of it as like a platform where there's a spot on the team for everybody to grab a hold. And if we all lift together, we can take our town wherever we want to go if you've got the right people all lifting at the same time. So that's how it sort of manifested, is almost with the dry erase board and, the daydream, if you will. It's almost like a daydream for me. And it helps. And I have that with my family as we're building out Haneyville, which is a unique concept around a family compound. I have it with the Growth Factory. And so I create these almost like fantasies in my mind. And these fantasies are like my friend, right? They're like these little dreams that most people would think are impossible.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, well, if that's where sounds kind of cool. That's where I want to go. How do I get there?
Yeah. I want to touch on something that you mentioned about Haneyville and like your vision behind that, but I was extremely impressed with your family.
Oh,
and I say that as in like, I met your daughter. I don't know if I met your son, but we spent time with your daughter after the event that we were at. And I'm just like, this inspires me as a parent.
Oh, thank you.
Of, the relationship that you build with your kids over time. And also at some point you didn't let, and I don't know, maybe you can touch on this, finding a work-life balance so that where you're at now, your daughter is, not only helping you run an organization, but also she's got her own businesses. And so what is that like, being so driven and being so clear about this big vision you have, but you're a family man as well, and staying clear and committed to that?
Well, it's interesting because my daughter was a competitive gymnast. I know you've got gymnast children. And so I think that is, that's interesting. She was always driven. And I think part of that came out in her love of gymnastics. She ended up becoming a diver at UC Davis and got a scholarship there. And so she's always been sort of athletic and driven. And so I'm lucky, and we share a mantra: the harder you work, the luckier you get, which is kind of a common mantra, but it's something that we both have embraced. And so she just happens to be a really diligent worker, a hardworking type person. But in terms of how do we keep that together as a family, we have to spend time together. I think that's a missing component in a lot of families. We don't sit down for dinner at 5 o'clock every night anymore. But I think we have to find ways to do that. We have to find ways for our children to understand how we think, and so we can listen to how they think, and along those lines, that's how the family culture ends up happening, is spending time together. And that's why so I have that with my son as well. We're lucky to have that as a family. And I think probably the short answer is my wife brought that together.
And she is amazing as well. I mean, like I said, I was impressed by just the whole family. Now, do you put health in that same family category, or is health separate? Because I know you're very active. You're a CrossFit stud. Is that part of the family, or is that just separate on its own?
So I write down my goals every week, and it kind of, as I analyze my calendar, and I write, I am fourth, right? That's kind of my thinking. I have 4 big art projects, if you will. And I am fourth. So the first one is my family, which is all about HaneyVille. We're building this incredible family compound. Number 2 is it's all around the mission statement, my family, my friends. So that's around the growth factory. 3 is the entrepreneurial revolution and my podcast, the Mark Haney Show. And then 4th is my fitness, and it's my health and me. That's me. That's what I sort of focus on for me. And so I like to do CrossFit. I like to do yoga. So I figure it's a great I think it helps the other parts of my life as well, because anybody who, you like to work out as well. Anybody who...
Well, I don't like to. I do.
Okay, well, so I don't know that I played sport. I played football and baseball as a kid, and so I was in and around, athletics.
Yeah.
And I coached some too. And I developed this sort of addiction to a little bit of pain.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's an addiction, but sort of like, if I go out and put it all out on the line at either yoga or at CrossFit and just leave it all on the mat or leave it all at the gym, I walk out of that just very clear. Sometimes I'm dazed and confused at the beginning, but then I'm very clear-headed afterwards. It's a great stress relief. And so I think that the benefit that I get after is like something I like. So occasionally, you don't like the pain, but I'm addicted also to a little bit to the pain, but maybe more so the feeling I get after.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. I joke around. I do enjoy working out, and but my journey is always up and down. It's like my faith. It's like it's a work in progress. And early on, I was always into like alternative athletic things. So I was into like aggressive rollerblading. I think we talked about this in the last podcast.
Yeah.
Like, I would grind on ledges and curbs and stuff. And then I got into dance, which is another sort of like aerobic thing. So I was active in that. And then I realized when I started painting, I was actually probably 50 or 60 pounds heavier than I am now. I was a big boy. And when I started jumping around on stage, I was out of breath. I realized this is not sustainable. So I started running. I started becoming more active outside of performing. And so now it's just finding a balance between performing and working out. But outside of it, the health benefiting me on stage, I feel the same way that after a hard workout, I'll wake up at 5:30 or 6 a.m., sometimes a little before that, just to get a minimum 30 minutes in. Nothing else feels as hard after that. I feel like bring on whatever, because I just put myself through hell. And if I feel fine after that, I'll take on any challenge.
Well, you must burn 500 to 1,000 calories just doing a performance on stage. I mean,
about that,
you're moving around a lot, and you leave everything on that canvas.
It doesn't show much, but I definitely do burn that amount of calories. But no, it's just staying, consistent. But I bring that up because, with the paint method, as we're on these creative journeys, I feel like you're on a creative journey. You've created. So creativity is a problem-solving process. And I keep just pushing into this, because if you have an idea, it's very clear or clear enough, You learn the skills or tool sets to bring it to life. It could be building your business or your family. If you have an idea about how you see your family functioning and where your kids are going, that's an idea. And you're bringing it to life day by day. You don't see the results right away. It takes time. And the beauty is when you're done, just like I'm done with these canvases, take it down, put a new one up, new challenge. You experienced that. You built that business, you exited, and you've got this new canvas, going. Part of the canvas that you're working on now, besides the Growth Factory and other investments, is your giving. It's Allegiant Giving, which I would love for you to share about what that is, but also what inspired that, because I got to see it firsthand, and I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, so I'm wearing my Wounded Warrior shirt now. For anybody who's watching, we have a veteran-led organization called Allegiant Giving. My wife and I started it after selling my companies, and my son was in the Marine Corps. And I think what really gave me inspiration is seeing the sacrifice that regular young men and women make, the extraordinary sacrifice that some people make for the rest of us. And I think as my son deployed and as his friends deployed to the most dangerous place in the world in Afghanistan, I think I asked myself, what can I do? And I think that's sort of the question that has haunted me at some level, is like, well, the real men, and in some cases women, but the real men are going off to war, and I'm back here with the women and children, what can I do? And I think it's something we have to all ask ourselves. And so we've started Allegiant Giving, which is really helping veterans to transition from, we've done all kinds of things for veterans, but our focus now is helping veterans transition out of the military into, and getting trained into, and getting higher paid jobs. Yeah. But really, I think when he got shot,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was shot. Wow. So I'm wearing my Wounded Warrior shirt because it's interesting, because he was shot in the leg in Afghanistan. And his son was born while he was in Afghanistan, by the way. And but he went into the hospital in Germany. One of the first hospitals he went to was in Germany, and he was in a firefight, and they ended up cutting off his clothes in the helicopter. He was like teleported out of there in a helicopter under gunfire and all this. It's kind of a really incredible story, but he ended up waking up after a surgery, and he was naked. And he's like, and he didn't have a chance to pack, right? So he's like in a different country, naked, no clothes. And so it's like, what am I going to do? Well, the Wounded Warriors, the Wounded Warrior Project, ended up giving him his first set of clothing. Wow. And so that was kind of the interesting thing. I was already helping Wounded Warriors prior to that, because playing wheelchair basketball with them and donating to the Wounded Warrior Project in addition to Allegiant Giving. Mm-hmm. But when I heard the story of him being naked and feeling vulnerable, my own kid, and then the Wounded Warrior Project that I had been supporting all those years comes around and it's like provides him a bunch of Wounded Warrior clothing and to underwear. Wear home and underwear. Yeah. And he actually ended up getting a jacket, a Wounded Warrior jacket somehow. I guess he got like $200 worth of Wounded Warrior bucks to spend at this hospital. And he brought me home the jacket, so I have a Wounded Warrior jacket that he gave me too. You know what's so commendable about people who have been wounded in the line of duty, whether it's first responders or in the combat, is I've heard stories about them feeling guilty about being home and wanting to go back because they know that their team is still in it. Was your son going through that? Yeah, we were driving down the road. He got shot on June 7th. He went in. He deployed on March 15th or 16th, day after his birthday, and then his baby was born in April. Wow. Hunter, yesterday, it was April 5th. Hunter just turned 10, and then in June 7th is when we got the call, and so he ultimately ended up in San Diego going through more surgeries and so on. But as he was becoming more mobile and out of the hospital, we were driving down the road in San Diego. And I remember his wife at the time got the call that one of his best friends had gotten blown up by an IED. Wow. And so this is a guy named Chris Bogner. And Marcus just felt, he's basically, he's wounded, so he can't even move. He's in a wheelchair, but he's still feeling that guilt. One of the interesting things that happened though is after you get wounded, you get put into this wounded warrior battalion, in at least in Marcus's case. And so you're in this group of people who have been blown up. There's all kinds of different injuries. Marcus was shot in the thigh, and he has, some complications from that, but he's good to go. But other people don't get it so well. There's people that are, they don't come back the same in a lot of ways, multiple amputees and so on. Well, his buddy Chris came back, and one half of his face, one half of his body was normal, and the other half was destroyed.
Wow.
And so those two ended up getting to room together, and they became even better friends. They had been friends from before the war, during the war, and then after the war. They had, he had a running buddy that was already a best friend, and he ended up being able to help his friend kind of get back to condition. They started working out together and all that kind of stuff.
No, that was such an inspiring night. Even the videos explaining about what the organization does, helping transition vets back into or veterans back into just working, whether it's mentally or physically. I think it's really amazing that you're doing that. And the end part of the paint method, and so the paint is about starting this journey with passion, putting the action behind it to bring this idea to life. But even then, when you're experiencing success or momentum, there's still purpose and intent to put behind that idea to keep driving you. Because we all know there's things you deal with building your dream that are not fun, not sexy. It's the some of the worst days too. But you have a bigger purpose to keep pushing. And then even on top of that, new situations to help you grow. But this last part, to teach and to lead, I feel like we've really covered that in the Growth Factory. But, I look at that term social capital. How would you define, is social capital investing in community, into people? Is it teaching? How would you define that?
Interesting. I think when we come together as a society, there's capital in that. And I think, I don't know if I have a good definition for that, but I think there's value in teams coming together at whatever level. It could be in a small community for a cause, small community for a cause, or it could be bigger that are in other, in other forms. But I'm having a little bit trouble defining that by a textbook way.
Yeah.
But for me, it's around doing something big for our world that most people wouldn't think about doing, and having other people in that on my team helping me to do it, because I call it the power of with, right? Nobody builds anything truly great alone. And if you can put the right people all, rowing in the same direction at the same time, you can do anything.
Yeah. I mean, financial capital, you can measure that. Social capital is sort of an intangible asset. But we know that socially, if we're doing something good, if we're, giving to veterans as a whole, at least the ones that you touch and you come in contact with, that they're leaving better. You're leaving it in a better place. And in any way, I think that as entrepreneurs, as, community members, always just keeping that in the back of our minds, that social capital is as important to the financial capital that we're gaining over time, but to know that we've got to leave it in a better place. We have these incredible platforms that we've been able to create and hold, but why? I don't have it in front of me, but one of the mission statements I wrote for this year, part of it was optimizing the creative process so that we can do this more and more, but to have greater influence for greater good. And that is where it left off, because ultimately, why are we doing this? We can, our families, yes, will be good, but there's a lot of people that can either be inspired by your journey and also benefit directly through programs like Allegiant Giving. So.
I appreciate that. Well, one of the things I think is any advice, if one bit of advice to anybody out there, or to even to myself, if I'm doing self-talk, you be you, right? We're all different. So what inspires me might not inspire you. So you be you. Just because I'm doing something a certain way doesn't mean you need to do it that same way. But I do think that maybe we all have a responsibility, and maybe we have a moral responsibility to bring whatever's great inside us to the world. And I think there's almost like a moral responsibility that I think we all have to bring out our greatness, because everybody has greatness inside them. You just have to decide what that is and apply it. And I think if you do that for the good of the world, then you can be really proud of who you are.
Yeah. So for the person that's driving right now, maybe they're going to this 9-to-5 job right now, or they're coming home, they're sitting in traffic, and they've had this dream for a while, whether it's to start a food cart, maybe do their first investment into a rental property, whatever that is. What would you say to someone that's ready mentally, spiritually, but they haven't taken that first step yet? Yeah. What would you say to them?
I would say take that step. That is, even if it's write down the idea. Sometimes the first step is just write it down and then revisit it, and maybe share it with somebody else that you trust. And that's, I think, a good first step, is just sort of deciding. And then when you begin to socialize it, that's an important next step. And all these little steps, these actions, right? It takes action. The one thing that doesn't do anything is just thinking about it. You have to put some action into it, these steps. And one thing you could do once you start doing that is you could come see me, right? So I want to meet every entrepreneur in the region, whether it's a cart that sells food, or it's a company that's trying to change the world through innovation. All entrepreneurship has got there's something special about all entrepreneurs, right? You take this risk, and it isn't easy, and we all have our reasons why we do it. And why would it be a hot dog cart versus maybe some sort of tech company? It doesn't matter. We're all the same, and I think I like to meet entrepreneurs so that I can have some of that ambition rub off on me. Yeah. I'm not doing it to help you. I want to be around you so that I can be inspired, so that I can understand. And if there's anything that I can do for you, well, then I'm happy to do that. I do these things called Hanging with Haney. They're little small groups. We do them like once a month.
I want to go to one.
Yeah. But so they're kind of fun. They're just like, hey, it's kind of like AA for entrepreneurs. We talk about how great we're going to be. Hey, it's not always easy. Talk about the hard things. And sometimes that little sharing can be therapeutic for all of us.
Yeah. I love how your response was, come see me. Yeah. Like the accessibility and the wall broken down, especially with the, doing that, whether it's through the Growth Factory or the Hanging with Haney, that's so cool. And I think what I got from that was start with something, write that down, put it somewhere, but also in addition to that, find a group or somewhere you can have a synergy of others who are thinking in a similar way, others who have a similar ambition, and others who just want to grow and create their life.
Yes.
So
yes. If you keep these ideas inside, it's a loss for society.
Yeah. Now, we're getting close to getting to the end of this, but out of all the things that you've done, and I'm going to take family out of this question because family ultimately is our greatest legacy. Outside of that, what do you want people to remember Mark Haney as for your legacy?
Wow. I was going to go to family.
I took that out.
You know what? I want people to remember me as somebody that could keep a commitment. Because I feel like of all the values that we could have in our life, commitment is the biggest. I'm somebody that if I say I'm going to do something, you can take that to the bank. That would be a friend, a family, a community member, I will keep my commitment. And I hope that people that know me and people that remember me as somebody that if he said he was going to do it, he would do it or die trying. And to me, that's how I want to be remembered. And that to me is how I've developed lifelong friends. And I want to have people in my life that can keep their commitment back to me as well.
Yeah. I'll take that to the bank.
I love
Actually, I would like to catch this, please.
Yes.
No, it's always a pleasure. And your energy is infectious. And I'm gonna stay on my health thing, and but also I'm serious. I really want to come to a hanging with
Haney. All right, let's do it.
Haney. I want to come because I have some ideas that I have some ideas I want to scale here, and I just want to throw it out there and be open to some feedback.
That would be great. I would love to have you. Okay.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. And where can people follow you, your journey, your podcast?
You bet. You can. It's called The Mark Haney Show. You can get it on any podcast network. You can find me on LinkedIn or Instagram. I'm at the Mark Haney. And then our Growth Factory website is growthfactory.us. So you can kind of find me anywhere in there. We have a 17,000 square foot building in Rockland where we incubate startups and so on. You can always just stop by and say hello.
Yeah, it's a beautiful space.
Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful space. Well, thank you for your time, Mark.
Thank you, David.
It was always a pleasure to talk. Thank you.